Welcome to We Are Carroll, a service of the Community Foundation of Carroll County. I'm your host, Kayla Selinsky. Today, we speak with Diane Boettcher, Principal Researcher for Ellsworth Cemetery, a historical cemetery in Westminster that was founded by 7 African American veterans in the 1800s. We learn about the history of Ellsworth Cemetery and how the organization works with the Community Foundation of Carroll County every day. To learn more about Ellsworth Cemetery, please visit ellsworthcemetery.org. Remember, you can learn more about the Community Foundation of Carroll County on our website, wearecarroll.org. Stay with us. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the We Are Carroll Project. To hear more episodes, please visit wearecarroll.org. That's wearecarroll.org. Talk to you next time.
Hi, I'm Diane Boettcher. It's pronounced Boettcher, like you bet your life. I am the principal researcher for Ellsworth Cemetery, and I also do a lot of the outreach for the cemetery as well.
Please describe what a principal researcher does at a cemetery. That's really cool.
So there's a lot of history literally buried in the cemetery. And so figuring out who's where and not only, but who's who. So sometimes we just have initials and a last name on a cemetery plot map that we have. Sometimes we have information off of the headstone. But to learn more about the backstory and who these people were and what they did in our community, and that's why I do the research. So I'm an amateur genealogist. I'm actually just wrapping up my 2-year stint as the president of the Carroll County Genealogical Society. And so I use lots of online tools as well as libraries and oral histories, and also talking to members of the descendant community. So people whose ancestors are buried at Ellsworth Cemetery, talking with them and learning more about their ancestors and who they were, not just the names and the dates, but also who they were as people. So it's fun to have all the dates and everything, but it's also fun to learn that, Uncle Pete used to cheat at cards, right? So those kinds of fun stories that you can really round out who the people were. It's great to always have those as well.
Well, you're the perfect person to talk to because I'm interested in what is the history of Ellsworth Cemetery.
Yeah. So Ellsworth Cemetery was formed by 7 prominent members of the African American community in Carroll County following the Civil War. They named the cemetery after Colonel Elmer Ellsworth, who was the first U.S. Army officer to die in the Civil War. And remember, Ellsworth was a rallying cry for the North. So the men were remembering Ellsworth when they named Ellsworth Cemetery. And they formed the corporation in 1876. And they formally purchased the land in 1894.
How has Ellsworth Cemetery changed or developed since 1876?
Yeah, so we actually think that the land was used as an active burial site prior to the formation of the Cemetery Corporation because our earliest burial is actually 1860. So over the years, the corporation was only founded for 40 years. And of course, over time, the 7 founders passed away. 6 of the 7 are buried at the cemetery. The 7th, David Ireland, is actually buried at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. But the other 6 are at Ellsworth. And then the cemetery's gone through this period of cycles of repair and curation, and then fallen back into disrepair as people and organizations had their energies taken elsewhere. So for a long time, a man named George Murphy took care of the cemetery. He rallied folks, he organized cleanups. He's the one who actually secured the deed and convinced the folks at the Community Foundation of Carroll County to take the deed and hold the deed and own the cemetery, to really establishing it to make sure that ownership was clear and that there wouldn't be any development on the land, which is actually a risk for abandoned cemeteries, is they get sold and developed into shopping centers and parking lots and apartment buildings. So
when did the Community Foundation of Carroll County become the deed holder?
It was I don't know the exact date. It was in the 1980s, early 1990s. So it's been a number of years that they've held the deed.
What is your experience with the Community Foundation of Carroll County?
Oh, they're so fantastic. So what's great about having the Community Foundation not just hold the deed, but also to be the administrator of our nonprofit fund that we have for it is they take care of all of the legal stuff. So I can focus on the genealogy and the research and the outreach, and I don't have to worry about nonprofit filings and taxes and tax codes and the legal things, as well as they help us when we apply for grants. Particularly the larger grants, you have to prove that you've had experience managing large sums of money in a fiscally responsible way, which if we were our own little nonprofit, we would have no track record whatsoever. But because we're actually, when we submit the grant, the submittee is the community foundation, they have a lot of experience and a lot of assets. And so the grant givers really trust the community foundation to be able to execute the grant well.
What is one of your 3 favorite experiences with the Community Foundation?
So first of all, it is handling the grant, right? So we received a $65,000 grant from the state of Maryland, the Maryland Historical Trust. And as we were working with the Historical Trust to get the grant funds applied to various things, the Community Foundation has always been really responsive in helping us provide whatever information they need, as well as sometimes even like it. The best way to describe that is like fronting the money. So like if we have a bill from, for example, we had some trees that were going to come down and hurt the headstones. So we had those professionally removed, and the tree guy, the corporate company we had remove them, they wanted their payment before we could get the funding from the trust. And it was about $10,000, and we didn't have $10,000 sitting in our fund, but the community foundation was able to pay the vendor, and then we were able to get the fund. So that type of support is fantastic. The other type of support that they provide for us is really getting our name out there in the community. So, for example, we recently were annexed by the city of Westminster. We had been sitting like right on the edge of the city for many decades, and we applied for annexation to the city, and the community foundation provided the help with that as far as submitting the right documents and getting the right signatures and those types of things. And then I think the third thing is the outreach. So Sharon Tillman, who's, I'm really fan of when these things were happening, when we got a bunch of headstones from the Veterans Administration to help us mark some of the unmarked veterans graves. So she helped us with the advertisement, if you will, the press releases. And so getting the word out to the community. And so I think those would be my 3 favorite experiences.
Oh, so it's cool that Ellsworth Cemetery was founded by 7 veterans. What events do you have for Memorial Day coming up?
So we actually don't have anything scheduled for Memorial Day. Westminster itself has a huge Memorial Day celebration.
Mhm.
And so we found that we don't try to compete with that so much. We do have all of our veterans' graves marked with flags, including the ones that don't have headstones yet. So, and that's a standard. So I'll be going up and making sure that those grave sites are, the flag are in good repair and good condition. So that's our primary thing, as well as putting, like I said, I'm part of the outreach. So we have Juneteenth coming up. So we'll be at the Juneteenth celebration. We have one of the people buried at Ellsworth, Reverend John Snowden. Fascinating story. The man was born in 1801, knew his grandmother who had been born in Africa and was stolen from Africa. So he knew her growing up. And he became a Methodist minister while he was still enslaved, then bought his own freedom, moved to Westminster, married a free woman of color because he was not going to contribute to the sin of slavery by having enslaved children, which of course they would have been enslaved if his wife was enslaved. So he married Margaret Kuhn, who had been manumitted when she was a child. They had 14 children. He walked all over. Anyways, he like would walk to Gettysburg to preach. Just absolutely fascinating individual. He wrote his autobiography. And so we've taken that autobiography and we've annotated it and had it reprinted, and it's available for a suggested donation for the cemetery at these events that we go to.
Is it also available online?
So the PDF is.
Okay.
What we found is that the distribution channels are actually really expensive, and it would almost double the cost without the cemetery getting any of that.
Right.
So if people want it, they can reach out to us on the website, and I'll be happy to
Yes.
figure out how to make it that happen.
That's my thing is like someone wanted to learn more about the Ellsworth Cemetery. Where did they go?
Ellsworthcemetery.org.
There you go. And if someone wanted
Yeah.
to contact you about supporting or donating, how do they contact you?
Yes. So they can either go to that site. We have a form on the site where they can donate. And actually, they donate through the Community Foundation. They manage all of that for us, which is fantastic. And we have a contact form, or they can reach out to me directly at admin@ellsworthcemetery.org.
So our final segment is called Staff Smiles, and you mentioned the lovely Miss Tillman. So I wanted you
Yes.
to talk to me about why you love Sharon Tillman.
Oh, so first of all, very professional, right? She knows her business. So very easy to work with, coaches us well through the things that we want to do when we, think about like, hey, we're thinking about doing a press release. We have this thing happening, and she'll coach us on, well, there might be a better time or there might be a better way to say something. So she'll coach us on that and like the timing of the releases, as well as how to write it, right? Because that's not what I do. I I don't write press releases, but I provide her the information, and she puts it together for us, and then always checks back with us, right? So I don't feel like she's taking it out of our control. It's still ours, but it's polished up and made wonderful by Sharon.
Oh, that's cool. We love you, Sharon. Woo.
We
Thank you.
do.
We do. Thank you so much for your time. This has been really wonderful.
Great. Thanks.